Sharp insight.
Blunt honesty.
Smooth production.
Coarse language.
The Queernoise.
Radio with feeling.
I'm speaking now with RyanConrad all the way from Montreal, Canada, or Montreal, Quebec, or somewhere in North America at least. I can tell by your accent that you are not actually French-Canadian.
That's correct. Yes, I am not French-Canadian. I live just over the border in Maine. However, I've recently expatriated to Montreal.
Okay. Well, to begin with, you are with the Against Equality collective, which is a group of radical queer thinkers, I guess, who write stuff. You've got two books out. One's looking at why we want to get involved in the institution of marriage, and the other one is why would we want to be involved in the North American militaristic complex, I think.
Correct. Our political work is around questioning this demand for inclusion within systems, institutions, cultural traditions, which includes gay marriage, gays in the military, and the ever-expanding prison-industrial complex through hate crimes legislation. And trying to open up, through our critique, trying to open up space to imagine more just ways of making the world a place that we want to actually live in. We're asking, what does social justice actually look like from a queer and trans perspective? And asking that question means, we can't just demand inclusion. We actually have to think through what those systems actually mean and what they do. And we don't think enough people are asking those questions.
Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by hate crimes as far as the prison industrial complex is concerned. Do you think you could possibly explain that to me a little bit?
Sure. I mean, at the crux of the issue is we, as a collective, we don't actually think the prison industrial complex solves issues of harm.
Yeah.
If anything, we actually think it compounds it. Historically, queer and trans people have been disproportionately affected by the prison industrial complex through laws that have criminalized us and continue to criminalize us. So we're basically asking the question, why are we relying on the prison industrial complex to tackle issues of harm and violence in our community and against our communities?
Okay.
And suggesting that queers should think really, really seriously about investing our energy in passing hate crimes legislation, because basically what hate crimes legislation does is increase mandatory minimums for certain kinds of crime, which means more bodies in more prisons.
Yes.
We don't actually think that is a way to address the issue.
Yeah, well, it's often been said that there's never really a nice reason to lock anyone up for any reason. And I do think it's always good. It's always very, very healthy to challenge everything, no matter what. Would you say total separatism is the answer, or where would you suggest we go?
I think we're actually explicitly against a kind of separatism, because what we're trying to look at is not simply the siloing of issues, like most of the mainstream gay and lesbian campaigns are, where they're like, gay marriage is very clearly a gay issue. But we're actually saying, okay, let's address the root cause of why people end up joining the military. And in the United States, we have a poverty draft, right? Like the people joining the military are people who have very little economic mobility. Yep. And so instead of merely suggesting that queer and trans people become cannon fodder, we're saying no one should be cannon fodder, but we actually have to address the systemic problems that work across the identity categories of race, ethnicity, citizenship status, gender. We're actually pushing against this singular kind of identity politic that demands clear-cut, single-issue campaigns, and suggesting, no, we actually need to be thinking with a much broader lens.
Well, you were in Australia earlier this year. You attended a book signing in Melbourne, and in fact, the book which you were signing was actually sold out before you got there. And you've also got something here. Let me just put on my glasses.
Sure.
You are now compiling a third anthology with a very funny name, but I can't find it. It's something about get your rocks off, all queers, and don't ask questions. No, that's not it at all, is it? Can you please...
No, that's combining the two.
Okay. But it's more about sexuality than the politics of sexuality.
Something about our collective, with our online archive, we archive written work, right? But also we're interested in visual culture and performance art and how people engage with the world. And so we thought it would be fun and titillating to put out a book of erotica. The call for submissions asks people to activate the themes of our archive, which is, again, critiques of marriage, military, and prisons, and include that in some sort of erotic fictional text. And people can find that on our website if they're interested, which is againstequality.org.
Okay, well, againstequality.org is someplace you really should look if you want to delve into the archives. And their books are available at Hares and Hyena in Melbourne. Is there a Sydney bookshop, perhaps, which might be stocking them in future?
We haven't heard from any Sydney bookshops. Somehow people can get our books from other people, and we don't
Yeah.
even know about it. So who knows?
Well, there you have it. I've been speaking with RyanConrad from Against Equality. That web address again is www.agaistequality.org. Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah,
nice to speak
thank
with
you
you.
so much for having me.
Okay, you're welcome.